Nice. Hello and welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back to, one second, our normal routes with just green, white, straight Maverick. So this is a list from Alex, who on the weekend took down a pretty big tournament in Europe playing this list. So to Alex, a huge thank you for letting me play your list. He will be putting out a tournament report on the Green Sun Zenith later this week. He sent me a draft, which is really nice. But yeah, really keen to get back in this deck. We have been playing a lot of humans and Death and Taxes recently, so coming back to D&T definitely feels nice. It's kind of like refreshed, and hopefully we'll do pretty well in this league. The list is pretty straightforward. So the only change that I did make to Alex's list was a Faerie Macabre over Surgical Extraction number 3, and that's really just because of 3 cards. The first one being Chancellor of the Annex. So you can't cast on the draw a Surgical through a Chancellor, but you can activate a Faerie Macabre. Exhume. So Exhume can be pretty rough if your opponent has 2 great creatures in the bin, where Surgical can take 1, but it doesn't deal with both, but Faerie Macabre does. And the last card that I want to talk about is Cabal Therapy. So against those players that are playing Cabal Therapy, Alex, hello and welcome. I think Faerie Macabre is just nice to have as sort of the third Surgical, because it plays around Cabal Therapy quite nicely. So that's really the only change there. So a pretty stock list, which I really like. The 3 Noble Hierarchs, the 1 Birds of Paradise, the 1 Dryad Arbor, sort of cutting off the need for a 5th Hierarch. I mean, in a Ren and 6 meta, it's not that great to have too many X1s in the deck, so I really like this amount of mana producing creatures early on. 2 Tomics and 3 Thalias. So again, just the 3 because it's not a card you want in multiples. We do have access to Gaddock Teeg as another way to hit combo and control decks. So Gaddock Teeg does act a bit like the 4th Thalia. And the 2 Tomics are really nice to play really well against the Depths decks. So Tomic turns off opposing Thespian Stages and Vampire Hex Mages, as well as things like Life in the Loam and Ren and 6. Ren and 6 can still tick up because it can return up to a target land from your graveyard, so you can still tick up and just target nothing. But it does a really good job of just slowing down that sort of engine. We have the Stoneforge Mystic package back, so 2 Stoneforge, 2 equipment, really nice. That's all you need. I wouldn't say that Maverick is really a Stoneforge Mystic deck that usually runs Batterscale, so there's no real need for it. So I really like just the 2 and 2, really just equipment fetches in this deck. The Jide great against other fair decks, the Foreign Knights great against True Name and Ren. Hey, Facepalm, welcome. I've added in Maze of Ith as a non-creature spell because you can't really count it as a land, and it is a removal spell in a way. It does remove a creature from combat, so I've added it here with a 4 Swords Plowshares, 4 Green Suns, 1 Sylvan Library. Really big fan of Sylvan Library. I think it's probably one of the best cards you could be playing right now. You can be really aggressive with it against the Depth decks. The Delver decks, it's a little bit rough, but it's still pretty good. So the one of Sylvan Library is really nice, especially when you're wanting to be pretty consistent with the deck. Alex has chosen to sort of go down to 3 Givers, 3 Noble Hierarchs, 3 Thalias, but with Maze of Ith, with Sylvan Library, you're going to be finding them quite often, along with Green Sun Zenith to find your mana producers as well. And then we have just a pretty stock standard Green Suns package with my favorite guy, Questing Beast. If you haven't seen some of the highlights of what Questing Beast has done on this channel, you should definitely check out my Twitter because I have a few clips on there of just the power of Questing Beast. So Questing Beast is great, especially against the lands decks at the moment with Maze of Ith. against creature decks like Ren and Oko, we're still wanting to hit face. And if we're lucky enough with enough exalted creatures like Noble Hierarch or Qasali Pridemage on board, we can actually kill an Oko that's ticked up once, which is quite nice. The Ramunap's great. It doesn't just produce the Wasteland lock, but in this deck we're also running a Ghost Quarter. So against the decks that are running basics, we can still have an impact on their mana base, which is really nice. Ramunap just great. I mean, against a lot of the fair decks as well, Ramunap and Dryad Arbor is a really nice sort of synergy, because against the Tarmogoyf deck, they have to really find an answer to it, or else we're just going to have a chump blocker for days, which is really nice. Tireless Tracker is a card that I haven't played a lot of recently. There's been a lot of Bolt decks, so I haven't really had a slot for it in my deck. I've really just gone with the second Sylvan Library, but I think Tireless Tracker is just really good when people don't expect it. And I think that's right now. So we'll see how Tireless Tracker goes. The clues are artifacts, so Collector Ouphe does turn them off, but I think that's a very small and minor sort of dis-synergy that I don't think should come up, but we'll see. Qasali Pridemage is really nice. Playing Qasali Pridemage in the main deck over the Night of Autumn, because Qasali Pridemage can actually act at instant speed, so you can actually destroy an artifact or enchantment in your opponent's turn, or in your end step if it's relevant. Which is really nice. So say if your opponent puts in a Batterskull in their end step of a Stoneforge Mystic, and you don't want them to untap and actually be able to return the Batterskull, you do have the option to, use Qasali Pridemage then and there, where with a Night of Autumn, you might have to, wait a turn, let them untap, play it, and then they might just return it in response to you targeting. So I do like Qasali Pridemage here. Gaddock Teeg, just a great one-off against the combo decks and the control decks. Really great against the Karn decks and Urza, and also Mono Red Prison, turning off things like Chandra, Fiery Confluence, Karn, you name it, and Gaddock Teeg stopping it. Scavenging Ooze, a great piece of mid-range graveyard hate. You can get lucky and actually use it effectively against something like black-red Reanimator or Storm, but usually it's something that you're really sort of relying on to push your advantage against something like Rogue Delver, or even a game against Dredge that's kind of gone to the mid to late game where you can start ticking out some of their Bridge from Belows or creatures that are going to be coming back. Scryb Ranger is really nice. Scryb Ranger's ability allows you to attack with creatures and then untap them, a little bit like Maze of Ith, which you can do at the end of combat after you've dealt damage. So Scryb Ranger is really nice with the tap creatures that we have, like Give Over Runes, Knight of the Reliquary, Noble Hierarch, Birds of Paradise, even Dryad Arbor, which is really great. Scryb Ranger and Dryad Arbor work nicely as well, because of course Dryad Arbor is a forest. We can actually block something and then return it. So Scryb Ranger kind of acting like a fog in that regard too. To the sideboard we have a Palace Jailer, 2 Council's Judgments, and a Path to Exile. All great removal spells. Council's Judgments mainly for Planeswalkers and True Name Nemesis. Scryb Ranger, I think, is a one-off that it doesn't look that great on paper, but when you cast it or get it with Green Suns, the amount of work that it does, it just overperforms so well. So yeah, Scryb Ranger is a hell of a card. The Containment Priest, the Surgicals, and the Faerie Macabre, mainly for decks like Dredge or Black Red Reanimator. Also can come in against something like Sneak and Show or Death and Taxes or Elves, but it does, not work with our Green Sun Zenith too well, but usually the cards we're turning off for our opponent are much more impactful than our own Green Sun Zenith. So the 2 Chokes and the 2 Sanctum Prelates, mainly for the blue decks. Prelate really nice against Storm, Miracles, even some of the combo decks like Urza. Collector Ouphe great against the Artifact decks and Karn decks. Night of Autumn just for an extra piece of what we want in that sort of regard. So great against equipment decks, great against things like Back to Basics, Counterbalance, Aether Vial. There's a lot of targets. It's kind of the Swiss Army Knight, many would call it. And then just a Force of Vigor. So Force of Vigor, a card that I actually haven't played a lot with in Maverick, mainly because we do have Green Suns in it to go and fetch things like Night of Autumn or Qasali Pridemage, but I definitely like seeing how it goes. Obviously Alex had a really good time with it, so I'm very keen to see how Force of Vigor plays out. We definitely have a high count of green cards as well, which is nice, and could really blow out decks that kind of rely on their artifacts to get ahead in the game. that's pretty much it. We'll go straight into a league. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully the volumes are fine and the music isn't too loud. You guys can hear me. If you are wanting to get this list, of course, check out cardhoarder.com.au. No, just.com. Card Hoarder sponsored the channel. They allow me to get the decks that I want when I want, which is really nice. You can get to them through the description below this video in my Twitch bio. And also to MTG Mate, who is an Australian online card seller. You can get singles off them. You can use the code DUGS to get 5% off all your singles. So that is it. Ramo, welcome. We are just getting into a league, which should be really fun. I'm really keen to see how this list goes, because obviously it did pretty well on paper, and now I just have to make sure that I do well with it online. But yeah, pretty keen for, I believe tomorrow is the LPL, the Legacy Premier League. I'm gonna say quarterfinals. I think they've done their pool stage matches already. I believe it's Brian up against Phil, or that might be from last week. I was listening to the Eternal Glory podcast where Brian was talking about his matchup with Phil, but it could have been recorded last week before the LPL. But yeah, a really cool piece of content that Julian does. If you are a fan of Julian, definitely check out the latest Humans of Magic podcast as well with James Hugh, where he actually interviewed Julian for a second time. This time more about the LPL, and just, Ramo, thanks for clarifying that. And just how the LPL sort of came about, what sort of work goes into it, where does Julian want to kind of take it, and what sort of his aspirations were when he first started the LPL, which is very cool. Very cool indeed. Oh, that's good. Real nice. I found a Preacher in my collection the other day. Very cool card, a very old card. Has like the Elvis look, which I kind of like. Preacher, for those of you who are unaware, is a 3 mana, 2 white and 1, or 1/1, with tap. Gain control of one of your opponent's creatures. Your opponent chooses which target creature you control. If Preacher becomes untapped, you lose control of this creature. You may choose to not untap Preacher, and if it leaves play, you switch back. So Preacher's a non-targeted way to get to gain control of True Name, and it's a card that I played in Death and Taxes when True Name was first spoiled, to try to steal opposing True Names and see if I could get away with it, but it didn't last long. There were kind of just better cards to play in that list, so that was pretty rough. We're up to on the draw against Yumi and Iowa, I apologize. And sadly we get a rough one, so we are on the draw. I mean, I think something like a Windswept Heath would be probably the best draw we could get, but I'm never a fan of keeping one landers, especially when it's not a colored source. If I wanted to be really greedy, I could keep this and, you know, maybe do the math on what drawing a green or white source is, but we're gonna mulligan. And this hand's great, we're gonna keep this. I think it's the questing beast that we put back. I kind of want to have it as a Green Sun's target, not something that I really want in my opening hand, especially when it could be dead against something like Storm, or just a deck that doesn't really care about it. So we're gonna keep it on the bottom, and the double Green Suns is really nice. Main deck Leyline of the Void. I feel like this could be the all-in black deck, or like some sort of weird deck. Oh, black mana, okay. This does look like the all-in black deck, which is pretty rough. I don't know if we have much interaction. Ill-Gotten Gains. So you exile this, and then each player discards their hand, then returns up to 3 cards from their graveyard to their hand. So this is pretty interesting. Because of the Leyline of the Void, we're going to discard our hand and then return nothing, and they're going to be able to return these 3 cards with Ill-Gotten Gains. And even cast it again if they want to, unless you exile it. You do exile it. So I'm not too sure if I even want to give away what my deck is. I think I just want to concede here. However, because I don't know the win condition, which I assume is something like Tendrils of Agony or Helm of Obedience, if they're playing main deck Leyline of the Void. That's going to be interesting. I'm going to quickly look at the sideboard and see what cards we would probably bring in. And it's pretty rough. I mean, we've seen I think I will just play it out to see what else they play, just to see what the win condition is, because I think that we can definitely get a lot more information out of them than we can get. So Infernal Tutor, Wishclaw, Talisman, Dark Ritual. Interesting. This deck definitely is pretty spicy. I'm going to quickly see if I can find it. I know it's here somewhere. I believe it was on... I believe it was on the MTG Legacy Reddit for a little while. But it's pretty tough. I mean, I think that, you know, seeing the Wishclaw Talisman, seeing the Lotus Petal, most likely seeing Helm in the main deck, I think that Collector Ouphe is definitely a card that we bring in. Sanctum Prelate's interesting. I'm not too sure how many of their win cons are just 4-drops, so maybe it's worth it to have that in the deck as well. Because naming 4 seems pretty great. I don't think they show it with this. Search your library for a card, put it in your hand. Okay, they don't even have to show us what they get. Most likely some sort of win condition. I believe we know they have a Dark Ritual. And something else. MTG Reddit. Legacy. Looks like that is passing back. All right. Is it worth wastelanding our opponent off the Urborg? That's an interesting decision. So there's nothing great to get with a Talisman, and I don't really want to give it back to my opponent. So I think I'm pretty happy. There's no way they're going to crop rotate, which is nice. So I think I might actually just try to take them off the Urborg for now. Oh, they got a ritual in our turn. What is this? Entomb? Okay. Grizzle, okay. Ooh, Shallow Grave, straight away. Oof. Going down to 4, okay. So they have to exile it, but they do get to sculpt a pretty nice hand. I mean, now we can just 6 and hopefully see enough cards to know what we should be bringing in. Most likely just some sort of combo hate. So Surgical seems fine. I don't mind Faerie Macabre, Sanctum Prelate, Collector Ouphe. Seeing that the ley lines stick in, maybe it's worth taking out some number of Scavenging Ooze and Knight of the Reliquary. Lake of the Dead, Ill-Gotten Gains, Khan the Great Creator, okay. Grindstone as well, okay. It's a pretty cool deck, so it kind of feels like a 2-card Monty deck, where they're just playing a whole bunch of 2-mana spells, or ways to just deck me. But we do get to see a bit of the deck, so sideboarding is going to be pretty interesting. I think that we can take out probably some number of Knights. Scavenging Ooze doesn't seem great. Atomic doesn't seem to be at its best. We're definitely bringing in Surgical, probably Force of Vigor, Collector Ouphe, Faerie Macabre, Prelate. Council's Judgment's an interesting one. We might put it in like a maybe pile. We can most likely take out some number of Swords to Plowshares. And maybe even just the Stoneforge Mystic package. I don't mind the Sword of Fire and Ice. Mainly because it saves our creatures from neg-1 effects. And it also means we can just really turn any of our creatures into a bit of a threat. So if we bring in the Judgments, Knight of Autumn seems great, of course. Powerless Jailer seems great. Containment Priest actually seems great. So maybe something like Ramunap isn't that great. I think I'm pretty happy with everything else. That's a lot of, like 12 cards is a lot of sideboarding, but a lot of these cards just don't do enough against this sort of deck. So I think I'm pretty happy with this. What I don't want to see is an opener with Containment Priest, because the green suns are just really nice for us. Ramunap over Tracker. I don't mind that, especially if they have some sort of answer for Karakas. I think Karakas is pretty good in this matchup. The one reason that I don't like Ramunap is that they're probably leaving in Leyline of the Void. And I think they look like a deck that can use the London Mulligan to their advantage pretty well with the ley lines. However, if they don't have the ley lines, or if we get rid of them with Qasali Pridemage or Force of Vigor or Knight, then I'm still pretty happy to have Ramunap in the deck. I think Wasteland's going to be really good against them. So let's go with this. And if there's a Questing Beast's a little bit too slow, but you can't drop the Beast. You just this hand's actually pretty great. Having the Force of Vigor and the Scryb Ranger is really nice. We can lead on a turn 1 Birds of Paradise. So I'm going to keep this. We'll go and get a Savannah with the Marsh Flats. Also, if they're on the Painter plan, then Force of Vigor is really nice. The one good thing about Questing Beast is that even if they drop a Khan, we can hopefully still aggressively attack their life total. But yeah, there's definitely merit to taking out this definitely isn't a matchup where I really want Questing Beast. So if I'm having a pretty good think, it looks like a really fun deck to play, but also it seems pretty rough if you have one piece of 2 combos. Which combo do you go for? I'm going to lead on the birds, because if we get a Savannah and we don't draw another mana source, we can actually cast the Scryb Ranger, return the Savannah, untap, and then play some other stuff. They also didn't lead on Leyline, so that's pretty great for us. That most likely means that we're not going to die to a Helm death early. Interesting. Echo would be pretty good. I really want to draw another green creature or green card. Faerie Macabre, not as great. I think I might just hold this up and maybe cast this Give of Runes. So holding up Graveyard Hate in Faerie Macabre and also Force of Vigor seems pretty good. Entomb's pretty nice, that's fine. I wonder if they have like a could just go for force here on the Lion's Eyes, which I don't mind because we have the Faerie Macabre as backup, and it's not like they can cast something right now, unless we do it in their upkeep to see if they actually go for some sort of reanimate spell as well, like Shallow Grave, maybe like Ritual and Shallow Grave. How do I get punished? I think this is fine. Yeah, the Scryb Ranger is really nice because it allows us to, if we didn't play the Maze for turn, cast the Scryb Ranger tapping birds and Savannah, and then return the Savannah and tap the birds and then have another 2 mana to play with. But because we didn't draw into another green card, I wanted to keep the Scryb Ranger for the Force of Vigor. So because we are tight on mana, I might just wait a turn to see if we draw into another green card that we can actually pitch to the Force instead of the Scryb Ranger. Surgical. Not really what we want either. I guess we can attack with Giver. Hey, Hershey. Welcome to the channel. So I'm trying to figure out if it's actually worth casting the Scryb Ranger. I might wait for their end step because it doesn't really matter. We don't have anything else to do with the mana. So I might as well attack for 1 with Giver. And then maybe in their end of their draw step, Surgical. So I think if I'm going to try to play around Shallow Grave or some sort of effect, I want a Faerie Macabre first, so that if they do something in response to get the Grizzlebrand into play, not only can I Surgical it from their deck, but I also get to see everything. But if I do it the other way, the Surgical will fizzle, and we won't get to see what's in the hand. So I think even... It's always tough, because if they have, like, you know, Dark Ritual, Entomb, and Shallow Grave, then it's pretty rough. But it looks like they might just be going for Deluge. Interesting. That's going to be fine. A little bit annoying. So now I'm pretty happy to Surgical their Grizzlebrand and see what's in their hand. Dark Ritual and Wishman, a Talisman. Okay. So we'll definitely take this Grizzlebrand. They only have 1 in the deck. So they have Tendrils of Agony. They have Thespian Stage and Dark Depths. They have Ashiok. They have the Helm Lock. They have the Grindstone Lock with Painter's Servant and Khan the Great Creator. And Echoes. Okay. Interesting. Ramunap, rough. That is very true. So maybe it's actually worth forcing right now these two. Ah, if it's not my turn. Rough, okay. That makes sense. So here we might as well blow up those two, exiling Ramunap. Ancient Tomb. Okay, so we still know about Wish Talisman. So Dark Ritual left in hand. Now they're ritualing. Okay. What can they get? Khan. Khan's pretty good. It does mean the Wishman, the Talisman doesn't work. The Questing Beast is interesting. I think it kind of takes the slot of another beater in like Tireless Tracker or removing something. Ugh, rough. I don't think we can do anything here. Yeah, I think Questing Beast is still really good, especially in the Ren and Oko kind of meta, where you do have a lot of matchups where there are going to be Planeswalkers. But in saying that, it's a card that to a lot of decks it's just a 4/4 for 4 that it doesn't really matter about. I think they can just grindstone me here. There we go. There's always one Discord. Yeah, no lands is pretty rough, but I mean that's just Magic sometimes. We did keep a pretty greedy hand of 1 mana with Maze of Ith, but you know, it was a cool deck to see it actually work out. The deck is really spicy. It definitely seems like an all-in deck, but at the same time, it kind of has like a small mid-range plan as well, especially with Khan in the deck. But yeah, I think Questing Beast is a really fun card to play with, and I think in the right build, another rough one. It can be really solid. It can get you out of a lot of sticky situations, which is nice. I definitely don't like keeping this hand. The Dryad Arbor start is really rough, and I think there are some really good 6s in this deck, so we're gonna mulligan this. And this is fine. It really hedges on the Noble Hierarch. On the play, I think we can keep this and maybe drop the Ramunap. Because at least later on we can maybe get it back with Green Sun Zenith. But I think this is a fine keep, dropping the Ramunap. I guess we could actually drop the Jide because it is something we can fetch with Stoneforge. So the oversight there was actually not dropping the Jide, as Alex said. 100%. I mean, at least it means that if we're up against some sort of Punishing Fire or True Name deck, then the Stoneforge can go and get Sword of Fire and Ice, and we'll have access to both equipment, which is kind of nice. Opponent down to 6 as well, so... you know, a turn 2 Gaddock Teeg is great against a lot of decks right now, especially Ant, where in the main deck they can't really answer it outside of Thoughtseize. Against Urza, Khan decks, Miracles as well. There is Swords to Plowshares, Council's Judgment, maybe Teferi to bounce it. But Gaddock Teeg turns off a lot of their deck, especially in the later game with Jaces and Forces. A Petal Start is always very interesting. Ugh. Oh no. So for those of you who haven't met Belcher, this is Belcher. A deck that usually goes off on turn 1 or 2, making a bunch of mana, and then usually either casting Goblin Charbelcher or Empty the Warrens. What the hell is this deck? So it probably plays Burning Wish. It only usually plays the 1 Taiga as well. One card left. Ugh. I think this is my night in a nutshell. Just combo. Rough. I guess we'll see what happens. It's probably gonna be like, yeah, negative 31. Alright. So sideboarding's gonna be interesting. We are on the play again, which is nice, but it's kind of rough to lose a game on the play. So I don't mind Force of Vigor. I don't mind Collector Ouphe. One thing that I do find green-white really doesn't do well against are decks that go wide. So looking at things like Young Pyromancer, Empty the Warrens, even Elves, you can bring in a bunch of, Containment Priests and other creatures, but sometimes they just go wide with 8 1/1s and you can't really get there. The Teeg would have been really nice there, but unfortunately, just didn't get there. So Questing Beast can definitely come out, unfortunately. Stoneforge Mystics is interesting. I think they can play a part in winning the matchup if it is an empty win from my opponent. The Sword or Jide can actually really come into effect. And also being a 1/2, it's quite nice. The Ramunap's too slow. The Tireless Tracker is probably too slow. The Prelates are really nice. The Knight is fine as just another way to destroy something like a Charbelcher on the field. The Swords can probably most likely come out. Tinderwall is mainly the only hit. Yeah, Atomics aren't that great either. Unfortunately. I guess the only upside of Sword is if you can try to buy some time by sorting your own creatures against an empty plan, but I don't think that's really where we want to be. Maze can come out. Surgical might be fine. We might be able to ping them somehow. And then maybe it's destroying judgments, destroying on-field artifacts doesn't seem that bad. Especially the deck is definitely known to maybe play a Charbelcher, go untap and try to draw into the mana to actually activate it. I think it's a case of Judgment is just better than some of the cards we're taking out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Maybe it's something like this. I mean, we could get really lucky with a Tinderwall. Faerie Macabre's interesting. It hits Rider Flame. That's really the only card. This isn't some sort of Past in Flames deck. But maybe one sword is better than this. The second Judgment is better than the sword. But it's tough. I mean, we don't have too much interaction. I think this is fine with what we've got, and we'll see how this goes. Ah, Belcher. We have a local Belcher player who is turned to goblins. The other goblins. This hand's pretty rough. So it's a pretty great hand in the blind. We have early interaction with Wasteland and Night of Autumn, Karakas. We have Noble Hierarch. We don't have anything that does too much against a huge number of goblins or a win with just Charbelcher. This hand is quite good against a hand that's going off to play Charbelcher and then maybe go off the next turn. But I don't think that's a risk that we can take. I think we really need something like Thalia or Gaddock Teeg in the opening hand to make sure that if our opponent doesn't go off on turn 1, they sure as hell can't go off on turn 2. So I think we have to mulligan this. And this hand's actually really nice. I'm going to keep this. So we have an opening of Surgical as turn 1 interaction. I don't want to use this Green Suns too early. I'd probably rather keep the Green Suns for either Gaddock Teeg or Collector Ouphe. So I'm going to keep this and just drop a Savannah. If we draw into lands, at least we have the Horizon Canopy to kind of float. So I'm pretty happy keeping this how we going. Hey, Lockbee. We are down a match against mono red, 2-card Monty. So we're going to keep this. We're currently playing against Belcher, and sadly we are down a game. To be honest, I should have dropped the Swords to Plowshares. I'd rather have that extra land just to know we're getting to 4 mana to cast this Green Sun Zenith for either a 2 or 3. But of course, with Thalia attacks, we have to pay the extra. So yeah, the first match was really interesting. It was a deck that plays a bunch of 2-card combos. So you're looking at Ad Nauseam, you're looking at Reanimate effects with Grizzlebrand, the Painter's Servant combo, Leyline of the Void and Helm of Obedience, and then a bunch of tutoring effects and rituals, which was pretty good. The Lotus Petal starts are always so rough because you just know they're pretty much going off. least if they go... Oh, Seething Song, jeez. They might even just be going for an empty plane here. LED, rough. 1 card. Just don't be Belcher. Don't be Belcher. I would much rather see empty right here. Burning Wish, okay. So they are going for an empty plan. Echoes. Oof. We can't even interact with Surgical here because they can flash it back beforehand. Ugh. I think it's worth surgicaling something here. Most likely the LED. I think it's a play. And like, we can hope our opponent whiffs. I mean, the deck does play a lot of just mana. Burning Wish, Chrome Mox, Desperate Ritual, Elvish Spirit Guide, Empty the Warrens, Goblin Charbelcher, Land Grant, Lotus Petal, Manamorphose, Pyretic Ritual, Rite of Flame, Seething Sun, okay, nothing brought in. That's fair enough. Okay. Oh, the Force of Vigor is interesting. Land Grant, okay. Tinderwall, sure. Ritual's fine. Ritual is fine. There's nothing I can do here. This is not what I wanted. This is not what I wanted. All right, we are O2. We've got them out of the way. This is fine. We're gonna play some Magic now. We're gonna get in some games, have some fun. You know, just enjoy some fair legacy Magic. But yeah, Belcher's really rough. There's not even Veil of Summer does nothing. You really need, you know, your Thought Seizers, your Plague Engineers. Whenever I see a Lotus Petal, I get to urge to bang my head on the wall. Yeah, I definitely get that feeling, especially when they play it on turn 1. You just know they're going off, and there's nothing that you can do, which is pretty rough. But yeah, for those of you in chat, you will also see Ask for Alex there, who took this list to a first place finish, which was really cool. I'm gonna get there. The Legacy Dutch Open Series, 70 plus players. You can find Alex on Twitter. This is the list, of course. But yeah, very cool to see Green White Maverick do really well at a large tournament. Because it is a very fair deck. You know, it doesn't play too many interactive spells for a sort of turn 1 or 2 combo from your opponent. You have to really rely on just, you know, playing optimally, making sure you've created a pretty consistent deck, so you're drawing into what you want when you want it. Because you unfortunately don't have access to things like Brainstorm or Ponder, where you can kind of draw yourself into the other half of the deck if you did accidentally, you know, keep like a Swords to Plowshare hand against like a Storm player, or a Thalia and Gaddock Teeg hand against Death and Taxes. You do have Green Suns to do that somewhat, but you know, it's pretty rough. You kind of have to play with the hand you kept, and just, you know, hope it sticks, some sort of threat or disruption spell until you win the game. But yeah, Belcher's pretty rough. I think that mono black deck also looks pretty rough. It seems like a fast combo deck. The main deck ley lines are really rough. Just making sure that your clock isn't too fast. And if you don't know the matchup and you use something like a main deck Qasali Pridemage on the ley line early to try to beat damage through, you might then open yourself up to just, you know, being susceptible to another combo, like the Pain of Servant combo. Yeah, rough start, but you know, that's legacy as well. Like, it's very cool to see decks like the mono, I'm gonna call it mono black Monty, or Char Belcher in the format. Like, it's very cool to see someone in chat be like, what the hell is this, when they're going off with rituals. It's just something you got to be prepared for. Yeah, it's fair enough. I think MTGO's got a nice sort of meta to it where you can really play the deck that you want, because this hand is okay. So the Wasteland's a nice interaction, the Swords to Plowshares is a nice interaction, but it's really matchup reliant. You know, there are, you know, against Miracles, this hand is pretty abysmal. The Cradle is pretty much a 6, because that's not doing anything for a while. It's rough, because like against a Ren deck, if we're going to Wasteland our opponent and then they just drop a Ren on turn like 4 or 5, then the Wasteland plan's kind of gone down the sink. Yeah, definitely. I'm a massive fan of 3 Thalias and then some number of Sanctum Prelate in the deck, so you still have some sort of switch up between the disruption that you play. I don't think this is a winning hand. This is very I'm going to be relying on my opponent to cast spells that these actually matter about. It's a very reactive hand, which I don't want to. I want to be proactive, especially on the play, and especially in game 1 against an unknown opponent. So I'm going to mulligan this. And this hand isn't... the one-landers are killing me. Is there a better 5? There definitely is. And this is closer to it. The Sylvan Library is pretty key. So I'm going to keep this. And we're going to drop the Ramunap and the Tracker. Alright. Play Canopy and pass. Yeah, the hands are pretty rough, but you know, that's just part of Magic. You got to take all the good with the bad. I'm sure there's some matchups where I've just drawn the nuts, so yeah, Jesus, 100%. I'm a huge advocate of the Black Splash, especially since Plague Engineer's been announced and in the format. The Black Splash definitely does add a lot to it. But the one thing I do like about Green-White is, funnily enough, the consistency of the deck. Which, you know, sometimes you just don't see. But I think Green-White is definitely the most consistent version of the deck. If this is a Delver deck, I'm pretty happy to try to Swords this in the Ren step, because I'd much rather them daze the Sword than the Sylvan Library. Canopy not giving away too much as well, which is nice. We could be a Maverick deck, we could be a green-white depths deck, we could be Death and Taxes, we could be a lands deck. So the canopy itself doesn't give too much away. I mean, Volcanic Ponder doesn't do much either. You know, we could be looking at Blue-Red Delver, Grixis Delver, Rogue Delver, Sneak and Show, some sort of Ant deck. So until we see some sort of, you know, Lotus Petal or Delver or sort of deck-defining card, you can't put too much thought into what you're going to play. So the Plains is really nice. Sylvan Library I don't want to throw into a Daze. The Tomic is actually quite nice. Unless they have Bolt and Wasteland, the Tomic is going to preserve my mana base for a little while. So I don't mind going the Tomic. I think Stoneforge is just not doing too much right now. The Sylvan could very much, however the basic Plains would probably give away that I'm sadly not on lands. But the Tomic could give away that I'm on green-white depths, so maybe they don't Wasteland this Horizon Canopy so fast because they might not actually have a good answer for dark depths in the main deck. So here I don't mind just running out Thalia. So if I play the Thalia and don't draw into a land, I've kind of locked myself off the Sylvan Library. But if the Thalia sticks, then I'm actually not too sad, because at least then we still have the Stoneforge Mystic to play next turn. So I think Thalia's fine here. Definitely looks like a tax to start as well. Spell Snare is pretty rough. Hey, that's cool. Lands is a very cool deck to play. And a deck that has definitely a lot of learning behind it. It's kind of a deck that you can just make your own, which is really nice. Tarmogoyf, okay. Tarmogoyf is a great target for this Sylvan Library. Wasteland. I don't mind Sylvan first. I can definitely take a hit, so I'm pretty happy to go Sylvan Library and maybe even Wasteland this turn. What I'm really scared is of a True Name. And I kind of want to keep him off 3 mana, and especially off green mana. I don't want to see something like a second Goyf hit the field. And Sylvan Library is pretty hard for them to take off the field if they are just Rug Delver. It's most likely something like Cindervines or Destructive Revelry out of the board, maybe like Return of Nature. The list with 4 Okos. Interesting. Delver's rough. This is where it's tough, because right now the main threat is Tarmogoyf, but we have a lot of creatures that down the line can actually make it pretty rough for our opponent. So the Delver, if it flips, we only really have Scryb Ranger as an answer outside of Swords to Plowshares. But Tarmogoyf, we can just drop something like another Reliquary that's a little bit too big. So I think we'll just put on top and put on top just to preserve our life total a little bit. Fetch for a basic. Stoneforge seems fine. How aggressively do I use Sylvan in this matchup? Usually very lightly. If anything, I use it as a scry effect, unless the card that I'm taking is going to answer a threat. So with this Tarmogoyf being a 4-power creature, if I'm going to use 4 life to actually like draw like a Swords to Plowshares and answer this Tarmogoyf, then it's a pretty good use of Sylvan Library. But if I'm, you know, drawing into like a Mother of Runes or a Grieve of Runes on like a land, then I'm most likely just choosing one of them and just playing a little bit slower. I kind of feel like I have to answer the Tarmogoyf now while they're tapped out, and then hope the Delver doesn't flip for a little while. However, they did just Brainstorm, but then they fetched, so they don't know the top card. The wait here makes me think that they have a Force of Will, and they're just seeing what other blue card they want to actually exile. I think Sylvan Library is best in the matchups where you're either at 20 life or you're going to be dead anyway. So things like Dark Depths, Storm to a percent, they can just get you with a little Tendrils if you use it too aggressively, but it's always pretty rough. Ugh, 4 Sundays, rough. So this is pretty close to just dead, because if this Delver flips, it'll be 7 at least. Going down to 4? Okay, well the Bolt's just pretty much lethal. I don't know if we have an out to this. We can't fetch, we can't use the Horizon Canopy, Horizon Canopy. I guess we can draw a card. Use Sylvan Library's ability. Yes. Yeah, rough. Boarding is interesting. I'm a big fan of not bringing in Prelate, because a lot of our 1 mana and 2 mana cards like Swords to Plowshares, Jide, Sylvan Library are just so good. Choke seems great. Path seems great. Palace Jailer seems fine if they're not on the True Name plan. We're bringing in Council Judgments anyway. I don't mind Questing Beast. I think we can drop on some number of Thalia. However, on the play, I don't mind 1. I also don't mind taking out Qasali Pridemage and Gaddock Teeg. Give is still fine. The birds we can probably take out. Actually, I'm going to take out a Noble Hierarch, because at least birds can block a Delver, especially with Giver Runes, it's pretty nice. Maze seems fine. I don't want to cut a land. Maybe it is Questing Beast. Atomic seems great. Stoneforge Mystic is fine. Grabbing these 2 equipments. Green Suns is fine. Tireless Tracker is interesting. I kind of like Questing Beast over Tireless Tracker, just because against a Bolt deck, it can be pretty rough to try to get the Tireless Tracker online. Yeah, especially because the birds can attack in the air with the Sword of Fire and Ice, which is really nice. I think we'll keep it as is. I think that Tireless Tracker is a card that can help us get back into the game if we do fall behind. So I don't mind this. It's rough because usually Gaddock Teeg's really good against Planeswalker decks, but against a deck that's most likely running Ren and Oko, it doesn't matter about it, which is pretty rough. I mean, the Ghost Court is fantastic. They most likely don't play any basics. I don't think there's any Rug versions that play basics. I mean, players might have tried out something like a basic island, but with Ren, you don't really need the basics because you kind of have a Wasteland-proof mana base because you can just replay it from the graveyard. You also just have so many cards that you want to cast of different colors. I guess Island kind of suits because it's dazeable. You can cast Ponder and Delver off it, but I think the deck's just a little bit too greedy to play a basic. Would love to play first. This hand is... I don't mind this. The Choke's nice. So I don't mind something like Green Suns for Dryad Arbor, turn 1, and just go from there. I'll get a basic as well, just to make sure that we have a basic forest and a basic plains to sort of start off our mana base. It means that we won't really get cut off a color. The one really interesting thing that's changed between the Maverick and Rug matchup is that usually a 4/4 creature is next to unbeatable, but with Ren in the deck, you really have to make sure your Knight isn't getting thrown into, you know, bolt your Knight and then deal 1 to it with Ren. You kind of now have to have a 5/5, which is pretty rough, because then there's also cards like Magmatic Sinkhole, which are seeing more play. So although you're playing around Ren and Bolt, you're now not playing around Magmatic Sinkhole. And then if you go to 6/6, they're like, okay, I'm going to Oko it and make it a 3/3, and now it's boltable. So it's just like one massive, massive turnaround. Delver's fine. So I could even Wasteland this turn. Or Knight. Interesting. So unfortunately, we can't cast Swords to Plowshares and Wasteland this turn. I think I'm pretty happy with... Probably play Jide first, and then Swords. Hey. Boyd. Thank you very much for the for the sub. That is very nice. Funnily enough, I do have a Maverick hat. Thank you to Pat Taylor for that. I don't think I swords here. I think I just hold it back. Nice. You know what? We'll put on the Maverick hat. There we go. I'm gonna. Why would I swords here? I swords here to play around Spell Pierce. I swords here because I don't think they have another threat that's actually going to be that massive. Knight's an answer to Tarmogoyf, kind of. I'm pretty happy to swords here. I just want to get rid of the Delver. And if they do Daze it, I don't really mind that, because it also stops Tarmogoyf from coming down next turn, as well as Ren and 6, which is really nice. Very nice content. Thank you. Yeah, it really does. I mean, the Wasteland here is kind of interesting. That's going to be fine. Because now I'm pretty happy to cast this Knight into a Force. We are currently 0-2, which might not sound great. I guess the Force check should have been the choke, but it's going to resolve, which is really nice. So we've gone down to Belcher, and we went down to like mono black 2-card Monty. I would love to submarine this. That would feel really nice. I guess a fetch land into Magmatic Sinkhole here is pretty bonkers. That's probably what they need right now for this Knight. Other than maybe Submerge if they brought it in. I think what you do as well is you don't play a land and you attack with the Delver. I think that's a top-notch play. Because I don't want to block, because then the Knight's boltable. And you get 1 damage in, which definitely adds up. Sinkhole is 6. That is correct. Okay, my bad. So I guess they could even attack with the Delver. If I block, they get a Sinkhole my Knight, and if they don't, then yeah. So unless they have Submerge, we get to actually just attack with the Jide next turn. And Wasteland them. No great attack. Atomic. So let's go for Wasteland first. Okay. And now I think we just equip and swing. Can they come back from this? Hopefully. I'd love for it to turn into a real game. Interesting that they didn't block. They're obviously thinking that their life total is a bigger resource than us using the 1 counter on Delver. Because now Magmatic Sinkhole is also turned off. Flooded Strand, okay. Our land's actually really nice. So I'm gonna attack first. Fetch. They know about Atomic, so I'm pretty happy to cast it. I kind of want to play this match and not have to show the choke or the Council's Judgment. Spell Snare, okay. That's fine. So I might have to use this Council's Judgment next turn to get rid of like a Goyf and then just attack in for lethal. But I would love to play game 2 without showing what I've brought in. Goyf's fine. Play this to play around days. I'll cast the Judgment. And then they're just going to concede. Okay. I don't think we change anything. Even on the draw. I still like 1 Thalia. The mana accelerants are nice. Of course, they aren't that great when we're on the draw and they are playing a Ren deck. But I don't want to overthink trying to sideboard for on the draw. I think it's pretty fine how it is. Can we submarine this league? That's the big question. Maze of Ith is an interesting card as well. It's a card that I haven't played too much of. I'm not a big fan of lands that don't tap for mana, but it does seem pretty good in the green-white version where your mana base is pretty solid. You have the ability to play, you know, an extra sort of spell being Maze of Ith. And you know, it's great with your own knights. It's great to sort of gain some life off things like an early Delver attack. If it gets Wastelanded, you don't really care. You can even get it back if you want with Ramunap. Mace is also a small out to Dark Depths combo decks, which is nice. They usually have something like Wasteland or some way to actually get rid of it, but it's always rough. Just gotta believe. This hand is interesting. So Stoneforge Mystic, with this hand, Stoneforge Mystic is pretty much a dead draw. It's just a 1/2 for 2. It really relies on the Noble Hierarch and the Savannah. We are on the draw, so that's not too bad. I don't mind this hand. If we draw a land, I'd be very happy. So we'll keep it. It's a little bit susceptible to Ren, especially if they have a Wasteland lock. Dealing with the Noble and then getting back Wastelands. But if we get a Night Out, it also makes that plan a lot worse. Wasteland. Alright, so Savannah, Noble Hierarch. Hey King, welcome to the channel. We're currently 1-1 against Rug Delver. Our opponent has not dazed or bolted our Noble Hierarch, so I kind of hope they're not just playing a land, fetching and Renin 6ing here, because that would be pretty rough for us. Ugh, I even hate seeing it. It's like, get away. Not long. Not long now, I hope. Swords. Alright, let's go Karakas into Jide. Renin 6 is pretty good. It's just nuts. I played a game where my opponent ticked down the Renin 6 3 times to kill 3 of my creatures, and then just played another one and ticked it up, and I was like, come on. This is like it's gotta be restricted. Ugh. Wasteland lock incoming. Might just be game. Unless we draw into like fetches. Still pretty rough. I don't think we're getting back from this. Play around days. We're not getting out of this. Especially with the Ren, it's just way too difficult. Just pretty rough. That's an 0-3 start. It's not how we wanted to do this. Alex, what are you doing to me? No. Yeah, just some rough games. But I think the deck definitely has a lot of game against Rug. I think if you get out an early start, then the Renin 6 doesn't have too much impact on your game plan. I would love to see Renin 6 go. Not so much because it hates on the decks that I love, but just that it's definitely getting to a stage where, you know, if Renin 6 was just in decks like 4-color Loam and lands, I would be more than happy for it to be in the meta game. But seeing that it's come into Delver decks, it's rough. It really has made Rug just so good. No, that's more than fine. The deck's really fun to play. Yeah, I think Renin 6 is fun in any non-blue deck. I think that's a great thought. Ben Delver. Yeah, I have heard some different opinions about banning Delver, which is very interesting. It definitely is. It's kind of weird that the most aggressive creature in Legacy is a blue creature. I think Delver would be kind of cool if it was red in some sort of like burn deck. I think we're gonna have to run this back after this. We have to go to another league. I'm not going at best 2-3. That's pretty rough. But yeah, I mean, as well, like, I guess we could try out Gilded Goose. That's a thing that I've seen some Maverick players play. I've seen some players playing Oko as well in like a Bant deck, because I think that Maverick really relies on its fast starts on its mana dorks. But if you have a mana dork that makes mana the first time you use it, but then it doesn't after, it's pretty rough. It's not usually a deck that has the mana left over to just make food whenever. To make food in this deck, you're really taking a turn off being able to cast another creature and go for it, which is pretty rough. But I'm sure if you build a deck that also runs Oko where you're making food, there is a world where it works. The one thing that Oko doesn't do is deal with True Name Nemesis, which is definitely sort of the big boogeyman for fair Magic players and Maverick players alike. Yeah, I guess in Bant you might rely heavily on your X2 mana dorks, like Gooses. So you might actually have a better creature base that isn't hit by Renin 6. But yeah, it's definitely tough. Turn 1 discard is a great way to deal with Wrenn and 6. The big issue is, like, sure, you can say that Pithing Needle or Sylvan Spyglass... No. Sorcerer's Spyglass can name Wrenn and 6. But if you bring them in, and you play them and name Wrenn, and they don't draw them, you're down a card. And even if they play Wrenn, get back a land, and then you play Pithing Needle, you're still down a card compared to your opponent. I think Decay is like a fine answer. But again, if your opponent has either destroyed one of your creatures or got back a land, they're still a card up, which is pretty rough. I think that's the biggest part that I hate. That even if you have the answer for it, you're never getting on sort of card parity after that Wrenn has resolved. But we have game 4, so we'll see how this goes. Hopefully we'll change this up. We'll get a win. Playing against Savage Nago. Veil of Summer equal Cryptic Command. Pretty much does. Can't target spell, draw a card. This hand is fine. We're gonna keep it. It's definitely a very fair hand. It doesn't do much against Storm or Miracles, but I don't mind the double Noble Hierarchs, and the Tireless Tracker and Knights can really sort of get us a bit of card advantage. City of Brass. Ugh. Is it gonna be Dredge? Okay. So if we draw into a land, we can also just hold up Windswept Heath, so that if they hit something, like a Icarid, we can block the Icarid to exile bridges. But of course we draw the Dryad Arbor. So let's go with... I think just fetch for Savannah, play Noble Hierarch is fine. The Arbor is pretty good because we can like Wasteland it tonight, which is kind of cool. And our opponent actually doesn't have a Dredger yet. So they obviously have one in hand and they're going to Lion's Eye Diamond to discard. Unless they want to save it for another Faceless Looting. So actually get the graveyard up, because that's a big part of this game. Stinkweed Imp, okay. One bridge, one Icarid. Breakthrough. That's not too bad. Windswept Heath. So I think the play here is just to play out this Knight of the Reliquary. It's most likely going to win us the game. Because it means that the following turn we can get a Wasteland for this Dryad Arbor to get rid of the bridges, which is really nice. So we'll go... Plains into Night, and if they don't Cabal Therapy us, we then have Tireless Tracker the following turn, which is really nice, and then also if we want to play Windswept Heath. But of course the Dryad Arbor is there as well, so we'll go for another Reliquary this turn. We can also sack the Arbor, which is really nice. Probably a better play. It means we can actually cast spells as well. Dryad Arbor is a forest, of course, so we can sack it to the Knight of the Reliquary. That was just a little oversight. What I could have done as well is actually use the fetch land to make the Knight a 4/4, so that an attack with Icarid isn't that great. I could have also blocked there, if I wanted to get the bridges out early. But they have had a pretty slow start from my opponent. Luckily. Swords Plowshares does nothing. They probably named Tireless Tracker. Interesting. Let's play Arbor. I can get Gaia's Cradle, that's a lot of mana. So we're going to sack the Arbor. Trigger one bridge. I could definitely wait for their turn as well. But I do want to make the most of what I have right now. There are not bogs in the 75, unfortunately. There are 2 Surgicals, a Containment Priest, and a Faerie Macabre. But yeah, to be fair, in hindsight, the best play here was just to play Tireless Tracker, play Dryad Arbor, pass, and then at the end of their draw step, sack the Dryad Arbor to go and get something like a Cradle, get a Clue, and then also crack the Clue, which is pretty good. We do definitely get more value off the bridges, which is 100% correct. So let's go for Cradle. I guess we just go for another Knight here and then play Tireless Tracker. I'm sure there's a much better way to sequence that so we actually get some more counters off the Tireless Tracker. So they have 2 Faithful Salutings. Creeping Chill, okay. No Narcomoeba yet. Just the one in hand. We might just be able to beat down. That would be pretty nice. We would get to trade a bridge here if we block with the Tireless Tracker. But I think it's better just... yeah, them not attacking. Getting the Noble out of my hand. I mean, we have some pretty good draws. I mean, Gaia's Cradle with Scavenging Ooze is pretty brutal, so Green Sun Zenith is a pretty nice draw if we can get it. Another Knight. Let's play a land. Get a Clue. Don't mind fetching. Getting a Savannah. Clue. Maybe draw with the Cradle. And then we can still play a Knight. And maybe even cast something like a 1-mana spell. Or if we want more with the Knights, we can. I don't want to play the Knight first and get the extra mana of Cradle. Because if we draw into something to get Scavenging Ooze, I want to have the mana to cast it. Wasteland. Still use this Clue. Green Suns. Okay, there it is. So now we can Green Suns for 2. Get Skoos. We can definitely eat a bridge. Or do we wait? I think we just wait. We might as well just wait. I'm pretty happy just holding back. They definitely have enough dredges, so there's no point taking the dredges out. We could take out the Icarids, but the Icarids are kind of meaningless with our board. And without bridges, they don't do too much, so I'm pretty happy just to pass here. hitting like a Narcomoeba would be pretty savage, so I want to try to hit that as well. So they hit one Narcomoeba, I believe. Let's do this. Alright. So we'll eat that Narcomoeba. And we can actually deal with the bridges in combat so that we can block with the knights and then sack for mana. Because they don't have any way to actually like flashback and kill these Icarids yet. So we definitely have time on our side, which is nice. Interesting. So what we can do here is block, and then before damage, sack a plains. I guess we can also like get fetches here if we want, but I probably want to stay out of some sort of go wide or creeping chill win. So I want to kind of use my mana as a resource, but what I wanted to do there was get 2 green sources and then eat the 2 bridges so that when these 2 Icarids die, they actually get nothing, which is kind of nice. So this is going to be interesting. Questing Beast is actually quite good in the matchup. It's great at attacking and it's great at defending, so I actually like Questing Beast. I think Ramunap can come out. We're definitely bringing in Surgicals, Faerie Macabre, and Containment Priest. I don't mind Force of Vigor just in case they bring in Silent Gravestone. We don't have too much to interact with it. So I do like also bringing in Night of Autumn, kind of taking the place of Ramunap. Tomic can definitely come out. Stoneforge Mystic is interesting. I think we can take them out and just leave the 2 equipments. Gaddock Teeg stops Dread Return. Yeah, Path is pretty nice. I don't mind that either. Thalia's we can probably drop on the draw to 2. Scavenging Ooze, of course, is MVP. Qasali's still nice. Teeg's interesting. I think because of the hate we bring in for Dread Return, Teeg's actually worse for us because of Green Suns. So I think this is pretty nice. Force also does stop, Force of Vigor does get stopped by Gaddock Teeg as well, which is worth noting. I don't think we need really anything else. Teeg does stop Breakthrough, that's actually true. Maybe that's on the maybe pile. You don't mind dropping the sword? I guess the sword doesn't get us through the zombies, which is the big thing. If anything, it only gets us through Narcomoeba, so I think we can definitely do that and then bring back the Thalia. The first strike's actually quite relevant as well. Sylvan Library is nice because we can be very aggressive with it. The dorks aren't the worst. They can get rid of bridges, which is kind of nice. The trackers, I think the tracker is where we want to be. It's just a little bit too mid-rangey. I think if we're getting to the stage where we can actually crack clues and get in with it and be a bit cutesy like that, well then we're kind of winning the game already. So we'll see how this goes. I mean, this is like more than enough anyway, so we should hopefully get this game and get a win on the board, but it's always pretty tough against Dredge. Sometimes they just have a really good start. And although this hand does have disruption like Scooz and Teeg, it's a little bit slow. You know, you really want something like Surgical or Faerie Macabre. So I'm going to mull it. We don't do anything until our second turn, if that. This hand's better. We have some interaction with Path and the Knight. Probably drop the Questing Beast. But again, it's not the strongest hand. I mean, it does play around Cabal Therapy. We don't have anything great that can be taken. But a breakthrough here would be pretty good for our opponent. Especially with Faceless Looting in the bin. So it begins. 1 bridge. 2 bridges and a Narcomoeba. And a Cabal Therapy. Rough. One Creeping Chill, okay. Oh, another bridge. How many bridges is that? 1, 2, 3? Oh. Okay. This kind of feels like a really bad Empty the Warrens, but at the same time, it's a really bad Empty the Warrens crop rotation. Interesting. That can win the game. But I feel like we need to play the Noble Hierarch over the Giver of Runes, just to be able to get out this Knight early. Especially if it's a 3/3 on board, it kind of just stops all the zombies straight away. But they might just go wide here. Another Creeping Chill. Down to 13, and then taking 6, so going to 7. Going to 4 with the Icarid. I guess we can block with the Hierarch, and they lose the bridge. I think we have to. I mean, getting rid of 4 bridges is kind of nice. Did they have all 4? They had all 4. Wow, okay. But now we're definitely in a bad spot. I think we have to go like Giver, Ghost Quarter ourselves, Giver. That doesn't even do anything because we're most likely taking 6 here, going to 1, and then next turn, you know, Giver save Giver does nothing. Unless we double block a zombie. I guess we can double block a zombie. Alright. We'll play this out. We'll see how this goes. They also have an Icarid. Ugh. No. No. we're not dealing with that. That's pretty rough. Alright. I mean, that's what you get. That's what you get for keeping a hand with no real interaction. Maybe Collector Ouphe is no... It really only stops LED, and if we're playing at turn 2 and they haven't cast LED yet, then it's pretty much a pretty big waste. I think we just run it back. There's little things we can change, but I kind of like what we had. See, even this is rough. It's not the worst hand, but it's just not great against Dredge. This either, just the basic play. I guess we got a 5. Huh? Maze of Ith. Okay, we're gonna 4. This is There's not a world where I keep this, and we do have a good 4. We do have a great 4. Keep. We keep 1. We keep Noble Hierarch, Birds, Surgical, Thalia. So we drop Maze. Actually, we'll keep the Windswept Heath. We'll drop Forest. We'll drop Bird. Alright. Hey, Ryan. Thank you very much for the raid. How'd you go with Standard or Pioneer? Oh, very cool. How are you liking Pioneer? And what did you play? If they only put one Dredger in the bin, then it's really good for us. Ooh. So breakthroughs on the stack. Oh, but they held priority? So here we just take out the Golgari Grave Troll, right? 4 1/1/4. Blue-red Prowlstorm. That sounds actually pretty sweet. Yeah, so we just take Golgari Grave Troll out of the mix here, and they don't have any dredges left. So Surgical is actually great. We'll definitely get rid of this Grave Troll. And that's pretty rough for my opponent. They kind of have nothing to do here. Okay, they hit a Golgari Gravethrog. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, now Thalia is not too bad. Wasteland does nothing. Wasteland allows us to attack for 1. Alright. Sadly, Thalia does not stop Creeping Chill either because it's a trigger and not a casting effect. Okay, so there's 1 bridge and an Narcomoeba. Rough. Hey, thank you very much. All the best. Might see you at Magic Fest Brisbane if you're up for that. Windswept Heath. Oh, we can actually... Okay, so Windswept Heath allows us to get Dryad Arbor, which you can Wasteland ourselves, which is really nice. So I might just pass here and not actually give them the ability to get a zombie off the Narcomoeba. Ah, very cool. Yeah, have to get a beer. I think I'm happy giving them a zombie. No blocks, okay. Icarid trigger's fine. So I might block the Icarid first, and then just Wasteland the Dryad Arbor, just to save 3 points of damage. However, I do want the 3 mana. I want to be able to green suns for 2 and also play something like another Reliquary. So I think I might just block and let the trade happen. We are at 12, which is a little bit rough, but we do have a lot of really good draws. So I think we can get out of this. We do still need another land because of the Thalia. We do have to pay for the tax, so that's very true. Faerie Macabre, interesting. Nothing really great to take here. I think we just hold back the Thalia for now. I don't want to take too much damage, especially with Creeping Chill still in the deck. Yeah, they don't have a black creature, which is really nice. So there's no point taking the Icarid there. So now it's really just Narcomoeba beats, which is pretty funny. Another Noble wouldn't be the worst either, because then we can start attacking with the Noble Hierarch for 2 power. That doesn't trade with the zombie, and it also allows us to keep back the Thalia. Canopy's a redraw, so I might use the Wasteland for it. There we go. That's pretty perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. I'm now pretty happy to Wasteland next turn because we still have the 3 mana with the 2 Noble Hierarchs. But I feel pretty good because even though we're allowing them to maybe cast something next turn, this Faerie Macabre is hopefully going to do a lot of work to kind of keep them at bay. Interesting, just passing, okay. Marsh Flats. Probably no reason not to cast it. I guess we might as well Wasteland first to see what they hit off the Colosseum. To then see if we actually want to attack or not. Tracker is not in the deck still. Probably could have been. Just wasn't sure what to take out instead of it. So I definitely want to attack for 2 again. And then here I can take out the Stinkweed Imp and Golgari Thug, which I don't mind. They're the only dredges in the graveyard. And I think takes them off a lot of turns. Because nothing else does. Let's go Golgari Thug and Stinkweed Imp. Playing the land's interesting because it means that they're not just trying to draw into 8 and then discard naturally. They must, of course, want to be able to cast something like an LED or a Faithless Looting if they get to another mana. But there's already 2 Mana Confluence in the bin. And if they want to cast something like an LED or a Lotus Petal, they have to use the Mana Confluence as well due to Thalia. So that's always pretty interesting. And they're keeping back the Narcomoeba, interesting. Oof, Knight's pretty big. So now that allows us to play the Knight and then attack with the Thalia. I assume it meant that if we didn't draw into a creature, they could double block the Noble Hierarch. But yeah, pretty weird. Especially if they're not blocking here. Strange game. Yeah, it also puts us to 9, which means that, yeah, Creeping Chills is pretty good. I guess they do need a way to actually get something in the bin, but they sadly just couldn't get there, which is pretty rough. So we get our first win. So far we've played against Goblin Charbelcher, Mono Black 2-card Monty, and Rug Delver. And then of course Dredge. So pretty wide variety of decks tonight, but just not the matchups that we've wanted, and definitely not the results we've wanted. But you know, that's sometimes what you get for playing a fair deck in a pretty unfair format. Yeah, Creeping Chill's a hell of a card, especially when they have Dredge online. Being able to deal 12 uncounterable damage and gain 12 uncounterable life is pretty brutal, especially for a deck that can churn through their deck so fast. Yeah, it's just it's pretty good. It is pretty good. I think the Dredge matchup is pretty solid though. Having the main deck Scavenging Ooze, having little things. Creeping Chill should really be cast, not be a trigger. Yeah, yeah. I guess that's definitely what I think as well. It's pretty absurd, but at least it doesn't get played in any sort of top tier decks. I'm not sure if like Dredge in Modern is a thing anymore with the Hogak banning, and also the Faithful Sitting banning. On the play, which is really nice, and this hand is fantastic. We're gonna keep this. Just gonna get a Windswept Heath with this Noble Hierarch, so we can actually really cast anything turn 2. Even like Giver and Thalia, if the Hierarch sticks. And just a 6 from my opponent. Interesting. Depending on what they play, it's gonna be interesting if we play Sylvan Library or Thalia. If they're getting something like a Tundra here, an Island, okay. Delver, interesting. I'll have a basic as well. I think because I want to find a I'm gonna play the Ghost Quarter. I want to hold the Wasteland for now. So I'm gonna play the Sylvan Library first, and then play the second Noble Hierarch. I played the Sylvan Library over the Thalia because I want to dig for a Swords. Or even a Scryb Ranger. Daze is fine. The Sylvan Library will mean we probably won't miss another land drop, so I think a Daze on that Noble Hierarch is a pretty big win for us. Ponder enters my mind. Interesting. Always yield. Sword and Karakas. I don't mind Sword here, so I'm going to put back the Karakas and the Wasteland. Play Wasteland. I kind of want to play around Spell Snare, so I don't want to play the Thalia. I think I just want to go for Sword of Fire and Ice, and then Giver of Runes. Scalding Tarn, okay. Interesting. I wonder if they have like a main deck of Braid. Okay. Another Giver. I think we just draw a land here because we're definitely using 2 mana to equip to the Noble. I guess then we have a leftover land. So maybe the Giver's actually better here. Put on top and put on top. So here we can use our non-colored mana to equip the sword to Noble. Brainstorm is fine. They might even be like running Stifle, which would be pretty brutal. And it should have probably been something that I took into consideration if I wanted to keep another mana. I mean, if it's a bolt, it does nothing because we have the Giver, which is nice. But it looks like it might be a Stifle. And it is. So I think in response here, the best play is just to equip again. And probably to the Giver. Because that gives it protection, while it can also give protection to the Noble. So I'm pretty happy with this. This seems like a great play. not to talk it up, but I definitely like this. Now we're going to play the other Giver off the land that we drew, which is perfect. Lines up so well. I mean, True Name does nothing, which is great. Young Pyromancer is fine. A little bit too slow. I wonder if they even have a second mountain. Like, can we Ghost Quarter it and take them off red? We know we're drawing a Wasteland. Yeah, I'm not sure how they actually get out of that. So this is an interesting one. I don't like Palace Jailer because of the go wide strategy of Young Pyromancer, and most likely also True Name Nemesis. So I don't mind Council's Judgment as just a preamp. Questing Beast can most likely come out against this deck, although it's pretty good against the creature base that they have. So maybe I don't want Tireless Tracker because it can be bolted. Tomics are okay. Scavenging Ooze is fine. Gaddock Teeg can come out. Qasali Pridemage can come out. I think that's the easy switch. I guess Choke's also pretty good. Especially if they're going for basics so early. You like, yeah, okay, Prelate actually seems pretty good. Stoneforges seem fine because they can fetch us equipment pretty early. Thalias, I think we can drop, especially because we're on the draw and we're also bringing in some number of non-creature spells. I don't want to be taxed out of my own spells by Thalia. I'm pretty happy dropping a land as well. Most likely a Wasteland because they did go for basics early on and we do have the chokes to hit their mana pretty hard. And then maybe it's Ramunap. I don't think Ramunap's going to do a whole lot seeing their mana base. I think Choke's going to be really good. We're gonna see how this goes, and if there is a game 3, then we can definitely look at some of our sideboarding and maybe figure out what's better. This is a pretty nice hand. We don't have an answer to a turn 1 Delver as yet, but I'm gonna keep it. One thing we do have to look out for is Stifle, so these Windswept Heaths could become nothing if we're not careful. Okay, Del was fine. Savannah. So because of the Savannah, I'm pretty happy just to get a Plains and play Giver. I probably want to keep this Green Suns for a Scryb Ranger that we can actually protect. Ponder, okay. Might as well a 6 here, we can't do too much. Sylvan Library, interesting. Sylvan Library's pretty good. I don't mind Sylvan here over the Thalia. I think the Thalia is just going to put us too far back. I mean, if we play Thalia this turn, we can't really do too much else. On the following turns, we kind of have to... It kind of time walks us. We can definitely attack with the Giver. Can't really protect itself, so that's 1 damage we can get through. I wonder if they want run a Brazen Borrower. That's a card that's been showing up in more Delver-based strategies that I kind of like. It's a nice clean answer to Dark Depths, which is pretty good. Bolt me. Oof. Okay. I actually really like the Bolt me there. I don't have a creature on board that's great to bolt. And if they start attacking me a lot, the Sylvan Library is pretty dead. Especially with this Wasteland. Chain's pretty good. I mean, that setup there means we can't actually draw an extra card with Sylvan Library. None of these are great. I guess we put on top. Put on top. And then I think I'm happy to go fetch Forest Thalia. Pass. Pyromancer is fine. I like that they tapped out. It means that maybe this Insectile Aberration doesn't kill us. Verdant. Scryb, okay. Well, that's something. Put on top, put on top. Land. I guess we play it now to play around some sort of counter effect. And we just pass back. There's no great attacks. We do just die to a bolt. Brainstorm's fine. I guess we actually need to fetch as well to get those cards off the top. Yeah, Choke's actually pretty good here. Yeah, let's draw that land. Nice catch. Yes. Put on top, put on top. We go down to 1. We actually didn't need to because of the Scryb Ranger. Yeah, Scryb actually saves us a life, which hopefully shouldn't matter unless they go really wide with the young Pyromancer. But this is definitely going to save us some time. Because now we also get to attack. I'd love to see them attack here with everything. Do we want to return anything? No. Atomic Noble. I'm going to go put on top Tomic, put on top Tomic. And now we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, play Sword. Use Scryb Ranger's ability to... Actually, no. We'll attack first. Now we can use Scryb Ranger's ability to untap the Thalia returning forest, play the forest, and play the Noble Hierarch. Ooh, ooh. Wow, and then it's going to concede. Alright, so we got the 2-3. Choke there doing pretty solid work. But yeah, I think the list felt really solid. As a fan of Green White Black, they you know, I'm a big fan of things like Abrupt Decay or Thoughtseize or Plague Engineer, but you know, Alex and his record on the weekend definitely shows that there's room for Green White Maverick in the metagame right now. And it is a very fun deck to play. It's a very competitive deck to play. With Green Sun Zenith, you really have outs to pretty much every matchup, which is nice, whether that be through Scavenging Ooze or Gaddock Teeg or Qasali Pridemage or Questing Beast. Yeah, they worked Brainstorm Lock there, which is pretty nice for us. I mean, they had to draw 2 lands and then also a Bolt effect to win that game, but obviously they just thought that sort of Fire Nice was kind of game. I don't think I'd make any changes to it. I think it's pretty consistent, even though it is running the sort of 3 obs in Thalia, Giver, and Noble Hierarch. I might find room for something like a Prelate in the main deck over just to make room for the 4th Thalia. Most likely in the space of one of the Green Sun's Silver Bullets, but other than that, it's a pretty nice deck. But that is it for me. My name is Big Doogs on Twitch. You can find me at Twitter, so it's Twitter/Doogs on Twitch. You can find all my videos and content on YouTube/C/Doogs on Twitch. Alex, a huge thank you for the list. A huge thank you for the tournament report, which will be on the Green Sun Zenith, hopefully by the end of the weekend, which is very cool. Ganzia, thank you very much for the follow. Let me know where you're from. If you play Legacy, what you play in Legacy. I'll be back on probably Saturday and Sunday morning this weekend, just trying to get that double up of Legacy in. Most likely playing green black white green white black depths. So something like this. So with the black splash, you do get access to Abrupt Decay, Plague Engineer, and Thoughtseize, which is really nice. Which I think should go pretty well. I also like running Port. I know Alex was running Ghost Quarter, which is also a pretty great land right now that can be just like a strip mine against a lot of decks. But I guess Rishon and Port I really like because it can actually sort of manage to interrupt my opponent's mana base even if they're on basic lands. So a lot of the sort of blue-white strategies that are out there, Rishon and Port shines really well. And it also just gives me a 2-mana play on turn 2 that also allows me to kind of like keep my land drop and ramp into something on turn 3. Looking for a replacement of Ghost Quarter? Yeah, that's fair enough. I would love to see Legacy get back to a fair stage where something like Stirring Wildwood is an option, but I don't think it is, unfortunately. I think if anything, it might just be a second Canopy. I think Horizon Canopy is a great land, especially because it's a white source, it's a green source. It allows you to play out your creatures through a Massacre because it's not a Plains. But yeah, I think if anything, I would probably just take out the Maze of Ith. Oh, sorry, the Ghost Quarter, or the 4th Wasteland for another Horizon Canopy. I think that's really it. Let me just quickly see who else is online. Andrea Mengucci. Blast Zone. See, Blast Zone's really nice as well because Blast Zone does give you an out to True Name in game 1. It also gives you an out to Ren and Oko. It doesn't give you an out to tokens unless you have Thespian Stage, where you can copy the Blast Zone. It has no counters on it, and then if you blow it up, it deals with all the tokens on the field. I'm going to quickly send you guys over to Mengucci, because he's the only guy left, streamer left online at this time of night for me. But a huge thank you to you guys for coming in and watching. My name is Doogs on Twitch. I'll see you next time. Cheers.